I've been pleasantly surprised with Super Mario Party Jamboree for about a week or so now, and a lot of that has to do with the minigames. Mario Party games are really only as good as the minigames will take them, and Jamboree has some bangers, but it also has its fair share of stinkers as well. From motion-controlled minigames to 20-player minigames, there's a ton of variety here, and some of these minigames are the best in the series, but some others are just pretty bad. In this video, we're going to be ranking all 112 minigames in Super Mario Party Jamboree. But before we get into it, I want to explain, I am going to be ranking these games not based on the context of how you would normally play them within their respective game mode, just within the context of playing them in minigame free play. I'm doing this because if minigames are attached to a really underwhelming mode, but are still pretty fun minigames, I don't want that to negatively impact it in the ranking, but I'll try to make a note if that's the case. With that out of the way, let's jump right on into it with number 112, the worst minigame in Super Mario Party Jamboree. Gatekeepers is terrible. This minigame is the only one that is actively unfun to play. It's entirely luck. You basically just have to hope you pick the right key and the right gate for the key. It takes way too long because there's 5 different keys but only 3 different gates. It is actively unfun. There's nothing you can do to get better at this minigame. You just sit there, watch, and hope you get lucky. Gatekeepers is by far the worst minigame in Jamboree. Next up, we have Look This Way. This is one of the 8-player Kaboom Squad minigames, and I've been on record saying that the Kaboom Squad mode is not that fun. Unfortunately, a pretty big reason why it's not that fun is the minigames are also, on the whole, not that great. Look This Way in particular is just kind of terrible. You basically have to look the way the arrow is pointing. Ah, so creative. Coming in at number 110, we have Prize Line, and this is the first of the item minigames. These ones all rank pretty low because they're pretty quick and simple. That's not really the fault of the minigame, it's just kind of what they're for. However, Prize Line is the worst one. You stop this and hope the line goes to the right item. Number 109, we have Prize Drop. This is just a Plinko machine where you try and get the right item. Pretty straightforward here. Flip and Find is a matching minigame for items. It's a little more involved, but still very boring. And next we have another Bowser's Kaboom Squad minigame, number 107, Juice Works. This is the perfect example of why I think the Bowser Kaboom Squad minigames just are not that fun. What is going on here? The first group of players goes to grab apples. The second group of players turns it into juice, and the third group of players brings the boxes to the truck. Not one section out of the 3 types of gameplay here is actually fun. It's all the most generic you could possibly get for a Mario Party minigame. A Stone's Throw is basically if curling was an item minigame. This one's pretty easy, but definitely more satisfying than some of the other item minigames on this list. Next we have Chomp Wash, another 8-player Kaboom Squad game. Clearly, I am not a big fan of these. For this one player is basically using the hose to try and wash off chain chomps, and the other 7 are trying to patch up this pipe. It's super generic and just not really that fun. Next we have Match That Item. If all 8 of you stop the spinning roulette on the exact item dictated, you get some points. Number 103, we have Ball Volley. This is another 8-player minigame, this time themed after volleyball. However, look at this. You run up and down to the circle and press a button to pass the ball. I'm sorry, 8-player minigames could be cool, but this is like the worst gameplay ever. It's just not fun. Blame It on the Crane is the first 1v3 minigame here, and as a concept, it's pretty fun. Returning from Mario Party 4, the 3 players are in various balls on this conveyor, and the 1 player operates a crane like prize-picking arm machine, and basically has to pick up the other players. Unfortunately, it feels like there are crazy magnets at play. The 1 player often will be slightly off, but still somehow pick up the other players. This one feels heinously unbalanced. Rink to Riches is a coin minigame where you're skating around trying to pick up coins on this ring. However, the controls are a little odd and it's just not that fun. The only interesting thing here is you can break into snowdrifts to get better coins. This one's just really boring though. Roll With It is our last item minigame, and you use the Joy-Con's motion controls to tilt this entire board and try and get the right item. By far the best item minigame, this one is just way more addicting to play than the others. It's fun to tilt your controller, see the ball move, and try and, jump it into the right spot. The strict time limit helps it out too. Number 99, we have Ballistic Bingo. This is another 8-player minigame, and you're just shooting cannons at a ship passing by, trying to make bingo. Again, this one, they're not fun. I don't like these 8-player minigames. 98, we have Treasure Divers. This minigame originated from Mario Party 1 all the way back on the N64, and you can kind of feel it even within this remake. The controls are still clunky as ever. You move super slow, and there's never really gonna be any crazy moments playing this minigame. Ushering in the 2v2 minigames, we have Dory's Pedal Paddle. I actually enjoy most of the motion-based minigames in Mario Party Jamboree. Unfortunately, Dory Pedal Paddle misses the mark because A, it's the exact same thing every time, and B, the motion it requires you to do of kind of wiggling your Joy-Con back and forth while rotating it. For some reason, every single time I've seen this minigame played, one person's controller clearly picks up a lot more of that motion than another one, so everyone's just kind of like turning off to the side. It's a little funny, but it's not great for the game itself. At 96, we have the first of the boss minigames, Mega Stingby Stompers. Boss minigames had potential to be really cool in Mario Party Jamboree, and some of them are. This is not one of them though. You basically just have to ground pound on this giant floating bee. However, it's not like you can ground pound on it over and over again, so you're just kind of waiting for it to fly over to you, ground pounding on it, climbing back up, waiting for it to fly over you, rinse and repeat until its health is gone, which takes a minute. Sky High Cannons is the first of our Koopathlon minigames, and this is like the most generic thing ever. You're in a cannon, you press A, you shoot out, and try and get coins. I feel like this one could have been a lot more fun if they really emphasized the sky high aspect of it. Like maybe you go up and up and up and keep going up, but as it is right now, there's like 3 cannons that shoot you up, and then there's just a bunch of coins, and you just kind of go back and forth and try and get them all. Tricky Turntable is a 2v2 coin minigame that quite frankly has fun mechanics exclusively if you're playing with 3 other people. If you're playing with any computers, forget it. This one is completely just, it's not even worth playing. But even if you're playing with other people, I'm gonna be honest, I think this one takes way too long. There's like 5 rounds here. Each round is 10 seconds, but the concept wears thin on like the second round. Lost End Pound comes in at number 93, and there are a lot of problems with this minigame. First of all, the way it works is the one player has to pick one of 4 buttons to hide behind and just hope that they don't get hit. They have 3 lives, but the 3 players all have 3 turns to pick a spot, and if you're playing this in person with friends, they can just coordinate so that you have to get pretty lucky and just not have them guess your spot. If they do get lucky and you make it through one round unscathed, then they have to double up and hit you twice in one round, which makes it a lot harder for them, but there's a decent chance your friends are just able to coordinate. The 3 rounds pass and you don't get lucky by picking the one spot that they can't hit, and then you just lose as the one player, and it's like, well, there's nothing you really could have done. Puzzle Pandemonium is a slightly better 8-player Kaboom Squad minigame. Hey, I mean, at least it's better than whatever this is, but it's still one of the most generic puzzle Mario Party minigames you'll ever see. Thwomp the Difference is your standard which one of these 3 images is different from the other ones. However, they're obscured by thwomps, and some of these can actually get a little difficult. Normally, I hate these style of minigames, the more like visual, like, oh, which one of these is different? And obviously, I still don't love it here. I mean, I'm ranking it at 91, but the surprising difficulty for some of the images definitely helped it move up a few slots. Then coming in at number 90, we have Sleight of Shell. It's a follow one of these 3 object minigames. We've had like so many of these. Trading Cards is an 8-player Kaboom Squad minigame where you have to move around a bunch of cards to get them in the right order, whether that's numbered order or completing a pattern. See, this is the sort of minigame that pretty much only works when you have everyone in person able to like yell at each other, no, pass it this way, no, pass it this way. That's where the fun of this minigame is derived from, and you can't even do that. Conceptually, the Kaboom Squad minigames are already facing an insane battle that even when they have a somewhat fun concept like trading cards, they just can't win. Bruiser Bash is a 1v3 minigame where one person's on top of a giant mech bruiser and just trying to punch the other guys off the arena. Bath Bob-Ombs is another 8-player minigame that would be vastly improved by being able to yell hectically at the friends you're playing this with. Unfortunately, obviously, most of the time you play this minigame, it's going to be in the Bowser's Kaboom Squad mode online with either randos or maybe a couple friends in a Discord call. So again, uphill battle, but the Bob-Ombs start coming in like crazy at the end here, and it does actually get pretty hectic. Arch Rivals is a 1v3 archery minigame where the 3 players are holding up bullseyes and you're trying to not let the one player score big points. While the bullseyes are pretty big, making it decently easy for the one player, being able to move them around and try and psych out your friend is a nice touch. Hammer It Home is all about charging up your hammer to hammer in these nails. However, some of the nails are already in the wood halfway, so you don't need to charge the hammer a ton. It's an okay minigame, but absolutely nothing special to write home about. At number 84, we have Matchmakers. This is a 2v2 pick the same card minigame. Oh wow, super fun. Number 83 is Skedaddle. This is like an 8-player, somewhat rhythm minigame-esque type of minigame where basically you're trying to race a wiggler somehow on skis. I don't get the premise of of this one at all, but hey, at least it's pretty quick so you can get back to not playing another boring 8-player minigame. Treetop Treasure is actually a pretty decently fun coin minigame. It's nothing too special. You're basically on 2 seesaws trying to get as much coins as you can, but being able to jump on your friend's head is a nice touch. Snag the Flag sees 4 players on a spherical planetoid type thing, running around trying to pick up all these flags. However, there's almost always gonna be 1 or 2 that no one can find, so eventually they have to like pop up an arrow to show you where it is. I don't know, maybe put on like a bunch more flags, but maybe a way stricter time limit, and it's not like you gotta get them all, you just gotta get as many as you can. Castle Hassle involves 20 players running away from Bowser. It's about as standard as it sounds, although it probably got some extra bonus points from me just because I think the concept of 20-player minigames is pretty cool. Like, having so many people here that you can bump into, try and push off, definitely ups the replay value a bit. In Coin Conveyor, you're trying to get the most coins possible by having bob-ombs blow up the coins. We are truly in mid-tier now. I think this is just the most like average type of minigame you could get. Speaking of average, Rocky Rope Race. In this 2v2 minigame, you're tied to a partner, and it's all about your timing, seeing how quickly you can grab on and then let go from different ledges to swing yourself across the chasm. Shadow play is all about you and a partner trying to match up 2 different shapes to create one shadow shape. It's a little odd. Some of the shapes are completely obvious, but every once in a while, you'll get one that actually stumps people for a decent bit. All in all, it's pretty fun, but this is definitely like my least favorite archetype of Mario Party minigame. I don't know, it's not personally for me. Golden Brown sees you pulling off different bread out of the oven right when it's perfectly ripe, right when it's perfectly baked, hold on. The time you have between perfectly golden brown and actually burnt is pretty slim, making this minigame pretty hectic and honestly quite enjoyable. We've definitely crossed over into the, hey, yeah, I wouldn't mind playing this again a couple of times category, which is always a great place to be with for Mario Party minigames. Definitely a lot better ones coming up though, so make sure to stay tuned, and if you're enjoying this video so far, hitting the like button and subscribing really is the best way to help out the channel. Make sure to leave a comment down below letting us know what Mario Party Jamboree vids you guys want to see as well. We got one coming up with 50 tips and tricks to help you win every single minigame or game you play. We got a lot of content, but we're always listening, so drop us a comment down below. Dragon Eel Slayers is our second boss type minigame here, and basically all you gotta do is ride your little watercraft into a bunch of green shells, avoid the enemies, and then slam those green shells into the Dragon Eel. The fact that this boss fight has like multiple different stages to it automatically catapults it up and makes it feel more grand, like an actual boss fight. Platform Peril, I mean, I love this minigame. In Mario Party 1 and Mario Party 2, it was a banger. In Jamboree, they definitely made it a bit too easy. However, it's still fun, and there's a nice risk versus reward element where if you kind of go backwards to go to a different side to get more coins, it is risky, but obviously it rewards you with coins, so it's fun. Cage Catch is a game that might make you absolutely hate your friends, but that's not necessarily a bad thing when talking about 1 vs 3 Mario Party minigames. Basically, the one player is swimming around in a pool, and the other 3 players are all in charge of moving and dropping a cage. If they're able to catch the swimmer, they win. Communication is key in this minigame, and it'll definitely have you yelling at your friends. It is kind of ridiculous, though, that if you have one player in the 1v3 minigame who wants to throw, they can just completely ruin the game for the other 2. Normally in 1v3 minigames, it's like, you know, maybe the other 2 can still have a chance. Maybe they survive or something, but in this one, you're cooked if you're not all working together perfectly. Number 72, we have Cold Front. The Typhoos are blowing wind, so make sure not to get caught in it because you might fall. Technically, you can actually get caught in it and stay on, which is pretty satisfying to do, but the ice in this minigame is so slippery, I wouldn't try it. Just try and not get caught in the wind. Okay, I have a confession to make. Normally, I hate these types of minigames, and while obviously it's still not my favorite, it's ranked number 71, Big Top Quiz is how you do a quiz minigame right. These toads are rolling on the balls that have images on them, and I'm gonna keep it a buck. These toads do not care at all if you get to see the image or not. Sometimes they just might not even show it. That's life. That's Mario Party. Suck it up and try again. Big Top Quiz can genuinely be pretty difficult, but as far as quiz minigames go, this is towards the top. This one might be controversial, but Hot Cross Blocks is coming in at number 70. I'm assuming a lot of people might have this one a lot higher on the list. I know a couple of my friends do, but personally, I cannot stand this minigame. Basically, you pick one of the block patterns on the side. Obviously, it has to like connect to the block pattern you currently have, and then, well, that's it. You just try and keep doing that until you can get all the way across. The one stipulation is that if you pick the same pattern as someone else, you both don't get it. I'm not a huge fan of this though, because sometimes there's only one pattern that you can actually use. So of course you're probably gonna try and pick that one just so you can help yourself out at all. But if someone else picks it, just good luck. I feel like a lot of this minigame, it kind of positions itself as skill, but it's almost entirely luck. You don't know what your friends are choosing. You can try and decipher it by looking at what they need, but sometimes they'll just pick random things to mess with you or whatever. I suppose that can be somewhat fun, but I don't know. I just don't really like this one. Let me know down in the comments below if you agree though. Number 69, we have Stamp Out. Jump around on the paper, try and cover the most turf. Yeah, this is basically Splatoon. If you got rid of the guns, put everyone on a stamp, and okay, maybe that analogy's falling apart. Honestly though, this minigame has its moments, but it is pretty difficult to move with the stamp. I feel like I'm never going that far, and I much prefer the Mario Party 8 minigame, Paint Misbehaving. It's got the same sort of aesthetic and somewhat similar objective, but the gameplay is way more fun in my opinion. I don't know, when we have Paint Misbehaving right there, like why would I play Stamp Out? I don't know. Number 68 is Noggin Knock or Whack-A-Mole. This is, I mean, it's Whack-A-Mole. Don't hit the Bob-Ombs, hit the Monty Moles. All in all, pretty straightforward. Koopathon minigames are generally actually pretty good, but they have one major flaw. You can only play them in single player. Why, Nintendo? Obviously, the minigame is not gonna rank as highly when its replayability is decimated, and the fun social moments you can have with it that are the reason anyone plays Mario Party are also decimated because you're playing alone. I don't know, man. As far as a single player Mario Party Whack-A-Mole style minigame goes though, I don't really see how you could do better than this. Number 67 is The Floor is Falling. You don't want to stand on the floor as it turns red because then it will fall and you will die. In fact, it doesn't even fall, it just flat out disappears. Bowser standing in the background super menacingly, 20 players hectically scrambling, pushing each other off to try and get on the safe zone. Yeah, this one's pretty fun. Number 66 is Sunset Standoff. The 3 players are standing close to the camera and one player is strapped on top of a bonsai Bill trying to kill everybody. Nah, seriously, you're just trying to run over the other players though. You get a couple of different attempts to do so, and if I'm being honest, I think this one is pretty fairly well balanced. Alright, we're at a bit of a crossroads here. You might have noticed that a certain archetype of minigames have been completely missing so far. We've talked about 2v2 minigames, 1v3, 4-player free-for-all, coin minigames, item, even the damn Kaboom Squad minigames that are terrible. Yeah, I'm gonna keep hating on those for the rest of this video, by the way. We don't have any more to go over, but I'm gonna just keep hating because I don't like them. However, one type of minigame we have not discussed yet are the rhythm minigames. You play these in a side mode called Rhythm Kitchen, and well, they definitely sure are rhythm minigames, and they sure are somewhat kitchen related as they all have a vague food theming. However, to be honest, corporate's asking me to find the difference between these two pictures. They're the same picture. I cannot, in good faith, put these minigames anywhere else than all together on the list. They are pretty much all the exact same in quality. I did rank them in terms of like my personal favorite, which ones I think had the most fun rhythm patterns to copy and all that, but from a general perspective, all 10 of these minigames are pretty interchangeable. My personal order goes 65 Copycat Curry, 64 On the Beat, 63 Footlong Frenzy, 62 Short Stack Chef, 61 Spread and Butter, 60 Soup Troop, 59 Unbarb, 58 Whisk Cream, 57 Burger Builders, and 56 Parfait the Chorus. I rank this one the best out of the rhythm minigames because it was the most visually unique, and the fact that it's a yogurt golf minigame and they came up with Parfait the Course for the name, that's just pretty funny. I'm a simple man. If there's a pun in the minigame title, it's probably going up a few slots. At number 55, we have Granite Get Away. You see that giant rock, or well, granite? Get away from it. You gotta run towards the screen, try and avoid the blocks that come up, and reach the goal without getting squished. Lumber Tumble is pretty fun. The giant lumber that the Shy Guys are on, constricting the area you can actually move around, makes this somewhat difficult, but to be honest, this minigame is still way too easy. You should be able to like jump on people's heads to stun them or punch them to push them back or something, because as of right now, it's entirely too easy for everyone to win on this one. Squeaky Shakedown is a 1v3 minigame where one player has a hammer. The other 3 have bags of coins, and you gotta avoid the one with the hammer. It's pretty fun. Number 52 is Trampoline. There's a line of ant troopers here you have to bounce on top of, but some of them are spiky, which ends up killing you. Again, this minigame is pretty simple, but it's fun. You can jump on other people's heads, sending them flying down into the spikes, and any minigame with an endless variant you can play in free play like this one will automatically get bumped up a few points just because it's a lot more fun. Number 51 is which door has more. Going back to the Coupathlon minigames, this is like my favorite way to do this sort of quiz-based minigame. Basically, you're put into a room and have to walk through the door that has more of whatever is above the door in the room. Some of them are pretty obvious. You just look at it and instantly know. But these questions end up getting somewhat difficult, which is perfect because it's kind of risk versus reward. You don't want to stay there too long and count them all out. That wastes a ton of time. But if you guess the wrong door, you don't get any coins. So how fast are you going to go? It's all up to you. The Boss Sumo Bro Blitzer's boss minigame involves you rotating these tubes to connect the electricity. It's a pretty standard boss minigame. Number 49 is Pickin' Produce. In this 2v2 minigame, communication is key. There are 3 different conveyor belts, and you gotta make sure all the fruit's on the right one. However, you have to use the middle conveyor belt in order to transport fruits from the right to the left and left to the right. This one gets pretty frantic and is overall a good time. In Spike's Gambit, you try and get coins and not get hit by the spikes. Again, this one's straightforward, but the constantly flowing sand adds a lot of kinetic energy to this game mode. Again, it's unfortunately a single player game mode. This would probably be in like the top 20 if you could play it with multiple people, but you can't. It's only single player in Coupathlon. Shuttle Scuffle is a 4-player minigame where you tilt your Joy-Con to change the direction of your ship and try and avoid all the electricity. This one's pretty fun, and I love that they included limited lives here, so it's not just who can get to the top, it's also who can survive. Unfortunately, this is a motion-based minigame. Again, normally I enjoy these, but this one is motion-based for pretty much no reason. Using the analog stick here, or even the triggers on the Joy-Con, would have worked perfectly fine, and that would have allowed this minigame to be played when not every single person is using a Joy-Con controller. Coin Corral is a 2v2 minigame where you're throwing lassos at different treasure chests to yank them back and get some coins. The 2v2 communication aspect comes in with these bigger treasure chests, which give you a lot of coins, but you cannot pull them in on your own. I don't know what Donkey Kong's doing. I guess he's got to hit the gym. Instead, you got to time your throws, get both lassos on it to get all the coins. Bowser Crashers is the last boss minigame you unlock, and visually, this one is awesome. It shifts from a 2D to 3D aesthetic, and you basically charge up your ship, launch it into Bowser, and watch his health go down. It's not higher on this list though, because it gets a little boring after a while. Bowser just has a ton of health, and it's pretty easy to avoid all of his attacks, and even if you get hit, it really doesn't do anything. Back to the 20-player Survivathon minigames, we have Burning Bridges. Avoid the fireballs getting shot off on your bridge to win. It's your pretty standard platforming Mario Party minigame, but again, the fact that there's 20 players here, Bowser standing menacingly in the back, you're in a giant Bowser's Castle arena, the aesthetic carries this one hard. The final boss minigame to talk about in Mario Party Jamboree, and the best one in my opinion, is Mega Rocky Wrench Wreckers. It's pretty standard. It's basically your classic shoot 'em up as you control your cannon and try and shoot the Mega Rocky Wrench as he pops out of these potholes. Other Rocky Wrenches can throw literal wrenches at you though, and it's super fun to snipe them right before they hit you so you don't take any damage. Unfriendly Flying Object is a 1v3 minigame where one player is in a UFO dropping giant spiked platforms on players. Only one side of these platforms are actually spiked though, but the physics in this one have carried it all the way up on this list. You can drop the platforms on other platforms and send them tumbling over so the spikes land up, making it a lot more dangerous for the 3 players. In Fire Away, you have to climb up a pillar, avoiding all the bullet bills. Again, this is your standard 20-player fun Survivathon minigame carried by its awesome theming that makes it really feel intense. Stone Eye Bowling is a fun duel minigame. It's basically just bowling, except there's some sand or hay, I don't really know what this is, blocking the path, so you gotta kinda read the terrain to optimize your route. Cookie Cutters is an absolute blast of a 1v3 minigame. Basically, the one player has control of all 3 different cookie cutting stencils, whereas the 3 players each have control of one. It's basically a test of, is the pure skill and reaction time of the one player better than the communication of the 3 players? Scarousel is a free-for-all minigame that honestly kinda disappointed me. This was one of my most excited minigames. As soon as I saw it in the initial trailer, I thought this one would be a banger, and it's pretty fun. However, unfortunately, it's way too easy. The carousel never speeds up enough, and the obstacles are all somewhat easy to avoid. Another banger duel minigame is Fuzzy Heights. In a similar style to Fire Away, you just go up and try and avoid the fuzzies, but the patterns the fuzzies travel in are way more interesting than the bullet bills, landing this one higher on the list. Income Stream is a 1v3 coin minigame where one player is riding on Plessy from 3D World, who's bigger and faster and can probably get more coins, except obviously there's only one of you compared to the 3 players who are just on little rafts. As far as coin minigames go, this one's pretty fun. And also, Plessy is from 3D World. I love 3D World, so that irrationally made me put it higher on the list. Number 35 is All the Marbles. This is another duel minigame where you have to walk through the marbles and reach the end before your opponent. When you walk through the marbles, you clear the path for your opponent, but since you're always walking towards the camera and towards the finish line, you don't necessarily know where the finish line is, so you don't just want to follow your opponent the entire way, because then you'll obviously get second. The more I play this one, the more fun I have, and it leads to some incredibly crazy close finishes. Alright, Luigi's Rescue Operation is the first of the ally minigames, and I just have to say, all in all, they knocked these out of the park. Getting an ally in this game is absolutely busted. You can get 2 stars, you can steal 2 stars, you can buy 2 items, you can do 2 of everything. It's absolutely insanely powerful, so it's really important that these minigames feel like a journey. You have to go to war to get these allies, and most of them succeed in that. Unfortunately, Luigi's Rescue Operation is by far the worst of these minigames, as not only are most of the puzzles just relatively boring, but when you play this minigame in the actual game itself, whoever runs into the ally gets a head start. This goes for all of the ally minigames, and I think that's a fine mechanic. However, the head start you get in Luigi's Rescue Operation is overpowered. It's almost impossible to lose this minigame when you have a full room head start on the other players, which lends it to be worse on the list. Down the Hatch is a pretty fun physics-based minigame where you have to push different objects down the hatch. Again, the single-player nature of it kind of hampers the replayability, but it's a fun mechanic executed to perfection. Hot Hot Hop is your standard, okay, let's not get hit here. You gotta avoid these giant lava guys, avoid the spinning fireball. It has an endless mode, and overall it could be a little bit harder, but besides that, I really have no notes on this one. Jump the Gun is an absolute banger of a 2v2 minigame. Originally introduced in Mario Party 6, one player is given the role of building out platforms with bullet bills for the next player who has to platform across. It's a risk versus reward mechanic because obviously if you build the platform to be, impossible to fall off on, that will take way slower, but it's actually pretty decently hard to land on these narrow bullet bills, so communication is key here. It leads to a lot of hectic moments. Wario's Buzzer Beater is Wario's ally minigame, and again, it's pretty fun. A lot of the other ally minigames are just better. This is a puzzle-based minigame. Various questions come up, and whoever answers first gets most points. 2Axis Taxi is another 2v2 minigame where you're both controlling a taxi, except one person controls the vertical movement and one person controls the horizontal movement. It's fun to try and cut the corners as close as you can, and 2v2 minigames really thrive on the communication between the 2 players, which this one places heavy emphasis on. 3-Throw is an absolutely banger minigame with one fatal flaw. This one's super fun, and it's real satisfying to turn into Prime Chef Curry and make every single shot, but if you are not first or last, aka you are in the middle, you are just strictly at a severe disadvantage if the people you're playing with can actually play the game well. When you make a basket in 3-Throw, the ball stays in the basket, meaning no one else can score on that hoop, so if you're shooting from the middle, meaning no matter what, someone has already had a chance to score on that basket, you are just going to lose more. That's how it works. Everything about this minigame is an absolute blast except for this one balancing thing. Robot Arm Wrestle is a 2v2 minigame that has absolutely no communication, but it makes up for that with insanely hectic gameplay. Shake the controller and pray your teammate is doing the same to win the arm wrestling. One problem with this minigame though, if you have a CPU on your team, you are cooked. Waluigi absolutely threw this one here.
Bro, Waluigi, are you not... Was he not pressing the buttons?
Pickaxe Dash is a motion minigame where you basically just have to shake the controller as fast as possible. You cannot see your character as you're doing this though, which makes it slightly worse than a very similar motion-based minigame that we'll talk about later on in this list. Light Wave Battle is a banger 4-player minigame, which is essentially just Title Toss from Mario Party 3, but shifted into a 4-player format, which makes it super hectic to try and avoid all the different light waves coming at you. Camera Ready is a photography minigame where you have to take the best picture possible. Matching up to the perfect picture is actually somewhat difficult as there's so much going on this map. Everything is moving at all times, so you gotta time it perfectly right. This one's a blast. Lane Change is a banger single-player minigame. Again, the only complaint I have with this one is that it is single-player. You can speed up your car to go faster, which lets you get more coins, but it's harder to actually get those coins and avoid the obstacles. This one's an absolute blast, and next up at number 22, we have Defuse or Lose. Stomp out the ignited wires and try and delay your Bob-omb exploding. This one gets super hectic, especially as the wires end up getting closer and closer to King Bob-omb himself. This was a banger in Mario Party 5, and it's a banger here. Number 21 is Brick Breaker. This is the final of the single-player Koopathlon minigames in this ranking, and again, it feels insane to say, but this would be probably in my top 5 if it wasn't single-player. The mechanics here are awesome. They put a great spin on the classic Brick Breaker format, as hitting other Koopas gives you more shells that can be used to break even more bricks. The red ones are super overpowered, and overall, it's a great time. Alright, we're in the top 20 now. Let's jump into Peach's Day Off. This is a pretty mid-ally minigame, all things considered, but it's still an ally minigame, which makes it place higher on the list just because there's so much going on. There's 3 different rounds here. You have to avoid the Biddy Buds to drop a present, try and pick a plate of donuts that no one else has picked. Again, I do not like this sort of mechanic where it's just kind of social deduction on, oh, okay, what are the other people gonna pick? It's definitely executed better here than in Hot Cross Blocks though. And then finally, you just pick up different gems that Peach wants to launch fireworks. Number 19 is Tilt-A-Golf. This one is an absolute banger. This is how you do a motion control minigame. I can completely see why they required Joy-Con to be used here, as you have to tilt your Joy-Con to move the entire golf course to try and score as fast as possible. Number 18 is On Again, Off Again, and this one actually takes the on-off blocks from like Mario Maker 2 and implements them into a 1v3 minigame. The one player is able to switch the on-off blocks to drop these grr rolls, that's actually what they're called, grr rolls, to try and create enough mayhem to get all the 3 players out. Number 17, once again an ally minigame, we have Daisy's Field Day. This is probably the most like mid/average ally minigame on this list. You gotta collect the most medals on these platforms. Sometimes red medals will show up, which are worth 3 points. There's 4 different stages here, and while I'm not necessarily sure why they went with this like ocean tropical theme for Daisy, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's a vague reference to the Mario Kart track Daisy's Cruiser, which if intended is pretty cool. Number 16, we have Prime Cut, and this continues the tradition of the Super Mario Party games having the most insane graphics on steak for no reason. Seriously, this steak looks absolutely insanely good, but you gotta cut it perfectly in half with your partner. It's all about communication here, and this one's super fun. I have no complaints. Alright, number 15, we're getting to the cream of the crop now. This one might be controversial, but I don't care. I absolutely love Night Lights. This minigame is a motion-based minigame where you rotate the Joy-Con as fast as possible to turn the crank and power your lights all the way up to the top of Peach's castle. Aesthetically, this one is awesome, but it is so frantic because unlike Pickaxe Dash, which is very similar, in this one, while you're shaking the controller as fast as you can actually see your progress, which leads to a bunch of insane nail-biter conclusions. Number 14 is Snowbrawl, which is a 1v3 minigame acting basically as a snowball fight. One player has a bunch of monkeys though, which you can hide behind, whereas the 3 players are all on their own, but can obviously send a lot more snowballs. I think this one is well balanced and it's just super fun. Snowball fights are electric in real life and electric in Mario Party 2. Number 13 is Yoshi's Mountain Race. Originally, this was one of my favorite ally minigames, but the more and more I play it, the more the controls just feel a little weird. You're all racing to the top of a mountain on Yoshi's, and it's a relatively fun course, hampered slightly by controls that always just feel a little bit off. However, being able to execute flutter jumps to take little shortcuts over gaps is super fun. Coming in at number 12, we have Twist and Sort. You're basically just trying to sort these different capsules, which either have a cheap or blooper in them, into their respective bins. What makes this minigame so fun though is how fast the capsules start coming in. It's impossible to get all of them, so you have to try and align your platforms as efficiently as possible, and you can also get some buzzer beater capsules, which can lead to great comebacks. Number 11 is Tiny Triathlon, and this is the best of the free-for-all motion-based minigames, and you have to swim, bike, and run and jump your way to the finish, avoiding all the hurdles. This one is super fun. We're in the top 10 now, meaning all of these are bangers. Number 10 is Sandwiched. First of all, this minigame has a super fun endless mode. You basically try and avoid the sandwiches as they fall in. The depth perception here is a little wonky, but the shadows help out tremendously, and overall, this is everything you could possibly want in a 4-player free-for-all minigame. It's fun, hectic, skill-based, yet still has some random elements. It's an absolute blast. Number 9 is Rosalina's Radical Race. Rosalina's ally minigame is a snowboarding race down a mountain, which then transitions into Rainbow Road. I'm gonna be honest, the gameplay here is okay. I mean, it's definitely super fun, don't get me wrong, I placed it as number 9, but it's nothing super special when compared to some of the other ally minigames, but the aesthetic here is absolutely awesome, and shifting from a mountain to Rainbow Road is an incredibly nice touch. Junior's Jauntlet is Bowser Jr.'s ally minigame, and this one is hard. It features a ton of bite-sized challenges, mostly revolving around avoiding different enemies. If you survive each bite-sized challenge, you get a point, culminating in Bowser Jr. himself coming down and trying to destroy you. It's hectic, chaotic, and even though it's an ally minigame, which inherently means it's going to be a lot longer than pretty much any other minigame on this list, it doesn't feel that long because there's always something happening and you're always on the edge of your seat. Fast Fishing is an absolutely hilarious duel minigame. It's literally just shake the controller to reel in your fish and pray you do it faster than the opponent. The fact that this is such a quick minigame that literally only requires one action actually works in its favor, as it's a duel minigame, meaning you've definitely wagered a lot of coins or maybe even stars if you're playing in the pro rules mode, so there is a lot riding on your reaction time here. Number 6 is Sled to the Edge. In this minigame, you have to watch a tutorial where 2 different toads sled off. One gets somewhat close to the edge, but the other gets way too close and then ends up falling off. Your goal is to get as close as possible without falling off, and trust me, you can get damn close. It's super nerve-wracking. You'll be biting your nails as you slide all the way up to the cliffside. It's a complete banger, but only the second best free-for-all minigame. Don't worry though, we'll get to that last one soon enough. Number 5 is Mario's Three-Peat. Mario's ally minigame just takes 3 of the best minigames that all appeared in Mario Party Superstars, that being Leaf Leap, Bumper Balls, and Shy Guy Says. These are 3 of the best Mario Party minigames of all time. If you combine them into one minigame, it's almost impossible for anything to beat this. However, obviously, there are still 4 minigames somehow even better. Slappy Go Round is the best duel minigame in Mario Party Jamboree, and it's not particularly close. You can jump or ground pound, and if you ground pound, it'll send this giant hand around to hit your enemy. Unfortunately for you though, if you do ground pound, there's a little bit of lag, meaning if your enemy's able to jump over the hand, it'll almost always hit you instead. It basically plays into a game of chicken where you're just kind of jumping over and over again until someone thinks they have the timing right to ground pound and hit the enemy as they're falling down. This is everything a duel minigame should be. It's got mental warfare between the 2 players, a fair amount of skill and reaction time involved too. Slappy Go Round is an absolute banger, and especially when you're playing this in the context of a Mario Party game with coins and stars wagered, it is an absolute blast. I'm always happy when this one shows up. Number 3 is DK's Conga Line. Donkey Kong's ally minigame is an absolute banger. An homage to the Donkey Kong bongo controllers, this minigame takes all the other Rhythm Kitchen minigames and absolutely blows them out of the water. Mapping the rhythm inputs to buttons rather than motion controls allows the patterns you have to actually follow to be a lot more complex. And with every character getting their own solo, this one is a great time to play with friends. Again, it's pretty long, but because it's an ally minigame, that's actually a good thing. However, there's not a ton of time for you to breathe, as you constantly want to be pressing L and R at the exact right time. It's got fun gameplay, a great reference, cool aesthetic. This one is just a banger. Alright, we're down to the final 2. If you've played Mario Party Jamboree, I mean, I guess you probably know what these 2 minigames are. And number 2 is the best ally minigame in this entire game. We have Waluigi's Pinball Arcade. First of all, it's pinball. It's instantly fun. Second of all, the aesthetic here is awesome. Waluigi having his own pinball arcade as an obvious homage to Waluigi's Pinball Mario Kart track is an absolutely brilliant idea that I'm shocked it took them like 20 Mario parties to actually do. Also, did I mention this minigame is so fun? There's a lot of different ways for you to score points, and lighting up all the letters to spell Waluigi's name will give you some random effect, which can be something like giving a blooper to everyone else covering their screen, adding more coins for you to score more points, Waluigi throwing in a ton of balls. There's so much that can be done here. This game never feels like you're playing the same game, even though the board itself never changes. Waluigi's Pinball Arcade exemplifies not just the best of the Ally minigames, but the best of Mario Party minigames as a whole. It's one of the best in the entire series, with plenty of hectic moments, ways to sabotage your friends, and also, it's just pinball. Pinball is fun. Alright, the number one best minigame in this entire game, if you've been paying attention, you know. There's no surprise here, it is domination. This is one of the most simple minigames in not just this game, but the entire Mario Party series. However, what it lacks in its complexity, it more than makes up for in just its pure, sheer fun. All you do is mash the button to make the most womps appear in front of you as you can. How is mashing one button so fun? I don't know, but if you have played this game, you know. Cramping up your hand to win one minigame has never felt so good. And this is one of the rare Mario Party minigames where even if, you don't really care about the 10 coins you're gonna get, you will never catch me lacking here. I always have to win. It's a test of sheer button mashing. It literally takes 4 players and says, okay, who can hit this button faster? Again, it's simple, but an absolute banger, and not only the best minigame in Mario Party Jamboree, but in my opinion, probably the most fun minigame we will ever get in Mario Party. There's just something so primal about mashing that one button as fast as you can. Domination dominated this list, and in my opinion, fully deserves the number 1 slot. Let me know down in the comments though if you agree, and make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and made it this far. It seriously is the best way you can help out the channel. Unless you're not subscribed, then subscribing is the best way. I'll see y'all in the next one. Click the video on screen right now. Seriously, do it. Click it. All right, I'm signing off. Peace.